this is a book that I really enjoyed, and in fact, I enjoyed rereading it just as much because I read it again this week because I knew we were going to be discussing this book as part of this book club. But I had originally read this book, I think, close to maybe 5-6 years ago. And I love Elizabeth Gilbert. I think the way she shares her ideas is so beautiful and so powerful. And I think this word magic also comes to my mind. It's almost magical the way she's able to craft her words and share these ideas. I think they're so beautiful and so powerful. And so that's why I just knew we have to, all of us, we have to discuss this book because there's so much in here for all of us. Yeah, tell us before we dive into the key ideas from the book. What is a book you would like to read this year? I'm really curious to know what's on your wish list for this year. Tell us in the chat, and maybe we'll take up one of those books in one of the upcoming months. Yeah, for any of you who, because I know so many of you are avid readers. I know you've already created your lists for the year. So if there's a book you would really like all of us to read together, please put it down in the chat. Moonwalking with Einstein, interesting. I feel like I started reading this book, but never quite finished it. But that book sounds very, very familiar. The Secret, okay. Yeah, of course. Interesting. What else? The Dance of Anger. Interesting. I don't think I've heard of this book. But Shreya, let's make a note of all of these books, so we can add them to our reading list for the year. Ooh, Psychology of Money. Yes, that would be actually a great book for us to read, because we haven't read a book on finance and money at all so far. And financial independence for women is so important. I'm such a strong supporter of that. So I think Psychology of Money sounds like a fantastic book. Rising Strong, yeah, we read a couple of books by Brené Brown, but any book by Brené Brown in my mind is a great book to read. So we'll make a note of that as well, Sunita. Great, yeah, keep the ideas coming. As always, this is the agenda for today. I'll highlight for you a few key ideas from this book, The Big Magic. We'll have you discuss some really beautiful, powerful questions in your groups, and then we'll have a few announcements in the end. All right, so here's idea number 1. Everyone, and I really firmly and truly believe this as well. Everyone has a creative force inside of them. Whether you think of yourself as someone who's creative or not, every single one of you has a creative force inside of you. And especially as women, I think we do have, we have this creative force that gives birth to life. Of course, we have such creative power within us. And I think this quote by Elizabeth Gilbert really captures it well. The universe buries strange jewels deep within us all, and then stands back to see if we can find them. So we all have these jewels within us. For some of us, it's buried deep within, and we may have to do some extra work to excavate and find these jewels. For others, maybe it comes more easily, but we all have them. We all have them. So I think if after reading this book, if you are able to confidently say, you know what, I am a creative person, then I think Elizabeth Gilbert's message has landed quite well for you. So the first question I would love for all of you to discuss and answer for yourself is, do you consider yourself to be a creative person? And when we talk about creativity, it's not just in terms of the arts. So it's not just, are you an artist, or are you a dancer, or are you a musician? I think I'm a creative person because I create ideas, I create programs, I create my entire work is about creating. So yes, I believe I'm a creative person. So one can be creative in any line of work. It's not just about the expressive arts. You could be creative yeah, in no matter what it is that you're doing. If you have ideas and you share those ideas, you work with those ideas, you bring forth anything into the world that wasn't there before in your own unique way, that makes you a creative person. So I would love for each and every one of you in your groups to just share your thoughts on, when you think of yourself and who you are, how much of your identity is this, that you are a creative person? If yes, answer why. If not, discuss why not. Idea number two, and this of course is an experience we all have. Yes, we're all creative, but the reason why these creative jewels remain hidden within so many of us is because fear gets in the way. We want to express our ideas more publicly or more widely. We want to share our art even with the world. We want to express ourselves in interesting, innovative, creative ways. But the question that gets in our heads, and the thing that holds us back is, but what will people think? What if I'm judged? What if I am ridiculed for whatever it is that I'm sharing? What if what I'm sharing is not accepted by people around me? And do I have the time and space even to explore my creative side? And so for all of these reasons and more, we hold back from unleashing that creative force that is inside of us. So there are many things, of course, that Elizabeth Gilbert has to say about this, but let me share with you one idea in particular that I think is an important one. She says, don't ask, what would I do if I were not afraid? Thinking that, okay, the only thing that is getting in the way of me and my creative expression is fear. And if only that fear was not there, I would be expressing myself more fully in the world. Because the thing is, fear is integral, completely, absolutely integral to the creative journey. And fear is actually never going away. And so instead of getting stuck on, oh, but I'm afraid, the better question to ask is, what would I do even though I'm afraid? Even though I'm afraid. Yes, I am afraid of what people will think. I'm afraid of these ideas or my expressions, whatever kind of expression it may be, of getting rejected. But it is so important for me to share this, to express this, that I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway. And one beautiful analogy that she shares in her book is, think of fear as a co-passenger. You are in the driver's seat. You as a creator, you're in the driver's seat. Fear is always going to be there. So let fear sit in the passenger seat. And you just tell your fear, look, I know you want to come along, fine, come along. But as I'm going on this journey, you're not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to turn on the music. You're not allowed to touch anything in the car. You want to come along. But I'm still going to go where I'm going. And let's peacefully coexist. So the whole idea is we have to cultivate this ability to peacefully coexist with our fears, especially when we are thinking of expressing ourselves in a bigger way. It does make us feel quite vulnerable. And whenever we feel vulnerable, fear is going to come up. And for us to simply say and accept that that's just part of the game. That's just, it's part of the journey. That's okay. That's okay. What this thing that I want to do, it is so important to me that I'm going to do it anyway, and let the fear come along. So question for all of you is, what would you create? What would you like to create, even though you're afraid? even though you're afraid, not if you were not afraid, but even though you're afraid, what is important for you to unleash in the world because it is a form of self-expression for you? What would you create? What would you put out there in the world? And the final idea that I want to share with you, which I think, again, is a really beautiful one, is that we all need to embrace our creativity because, as Elizabeth Gilbert says, a creative life is an amplified life. It is a bigger life, a happier life, an expanded life, and a hell of a lot more interesting life. Living in this manner continuously and stubbornly, bringing forth the jewels that are hidden within you is a fine art in and of itself. And when it comes to this creative life, what the other thing that she has to say, it may not always mean about you creating art, creating original art. It more than anything, what a creative life is. Sorry, just let me move this. A creative life, quite simply, is a life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than by fear. If you continue to nurture the things that make you curious, whatever it is that you're curious about, whatever forms of self-expression that you're curious about, if you continue to nurture that curiosity, and you let that become more important than any fear, that's an amplified life. That's a creative life. So the question here finally is, how can you live a more creative life? How can you live more creatively, given that it allows us to live more fully and express ourselves fully? What would this mean for you? So as always, I would say in your respective groups, please assign a book fairy. And a book fairy is quite simply someone who is going to moderate this discussion for the group. So today, let's say whoever has the longest name, whichever is the person in the group with the longest name, I have nominated you as the book fairy. So please go ahead and moderate the discussion for the group, or if anybody else would like to, again, it's completely open. And here are the questions that we are going to share with you inside of the breakout rooms. So once again, do you think you're a creative person? What would you like to create even though you're afraid? And how can you live more creatively? So as always, we'll give you 35 minutes for the breakouts. And when you see the prompt on your screen, please go ahead and join.